Okay, so firstly you'll need to measure how big your pillow is that you're wanting to cover, and you want to do it so it's relatively tight. So just leave a 1 centimeter seam allowance around every edge, and you want to leave an extra ½ centimeter on one end. Okay, so I've just cut out my 2 pieces here, front and back. I'm using a pattern on the front, which is kind of scratchy, so I wanted to use something on the back that I can flip it over and sleep on. So I'm using 100% silk, which is great for curly hair. And then I've gone ahead and overlocked along one side of both pieces on the right hand side. You can see here. And now I want to do a faux seam that we are going to pull out later on. Okay, so for our faux seam, we want to place our 2 pieces of fabric right sides together. So this is the right side of this fabric and the right side of this fabric. And we're going to place our 2 overlocked edges together, and we're going to stitch a seam all the way down here, 1 centimeter in, and it's just going to be in a long stitch that we can, hello, can you please get out of the shot? Thank you. We're going to do it in a long stitch that we're going to unpick out later on. So it's got to be a long stitch so that we can unpick it easily. So on my machine I've chosen the longest stitch possible, and my 2 together, needle in, and I'm just going to stitch all the way along here. Don't worry about back stitching because we're going to pull this thread out anyway. Okay, so now we have our seam along here. So I want you to flip it over the back, and we need to make sure that these 2 flaps are sitting either side. So if you iron that nice and flat, I've actually steamed mine flat because this is 100% silk and this is some scratchy kind of metallic. I didn't want to burn the silk, so I just ran my steamer all across here. And I'm going to grab our zip. This is a regular dress zip rather than an invisible zip. And what we're going to do is place it face down on that seam. So the center of the zip is going to be right on the center of that seam. Now my zip is actually a little bit short for this pillowcase, but just makes it a little bit, it's something I had on hand and just makes it a little bit easier to do our corners, and my pillow will still fit inside. Okay, so what we're going to do is just pin this, making sure that the center of our zip is on that center seam. Pin. Now that we are pinned on, what we're going to do is sew a square rectangle around the zip. So we're going to go from here, or probably from this side actually, so all the way down here, go around this edge, back up, and come across there, and we'll have to unzip that zip before we do that. So I'm going to start a little bit south of the zipper, which is up here. Actually, I'm going to start a little bit even further south, just so that that head's not in my road. There we go. So let's make sure that we're on regular stitch. I'm going on my left hand side so I can go nice and close to the teeth here. But just sort of halfway between the center and the edge is where you want to be stitching, okay? There. Get down to here, I'm going to lift the lever, turn so I can do a corner, and just be careful that you don't go through the metal bit. So go nice and slow over that, into the halfway point, lift, turn, and back the other way. Okay, so at this point, I want to unzip a little bit, which means you have to push it sort of right through the middle there, just until you get back past the zip. But we just want that knot in our road whilst we stitch this last end, okay? So I'm just going to do stitching, lift, turn, oops. And then we're going to have to come back down here to meet this space. So really slowly over that bit. Last corner. Okay, so you can see there that I have stitched a rectangle all the way around the outside of the teeth. So now we need to unpick the long stitch that we did up this seam. We're only going to unpick it from here, the top of the rectangle, to the bottom. We're going to keep it on the ends and we're going to reinforce that later. So you can see here that my rectangle isn't quite perfectly in the center. It's fine up this end, but it's a little bit wonky over there. Don't worry about that. It's just a pillowcase. Okay, so let's unpick. Sorry, that took forever because it's such a fine silk. But now we can freely run our zip open and closed. And we know that these are going to meet perfectly together, even if you didn't do it straight up here. And just one thing, make sure that you get all the little bits of cotton out that you've unpicked, otherwise they might get stuck in the zipper. Alright, so now we are going to just unzip a little bit, because you don't want to get stuck later on trying to turn it inside out and not having any way to unzip it. So now we want to just stitch all the way around the edges. Okay, so my thread has come out there. Alright, so you can see here that I still have my edge stitching of the long stitch that we made, but I want to go over the top of that just to give it some strength. And then we're just going to keep sewing all the way around, down, back up, and across there to reinforce that. And then we will be done. After you've done sewing all the way around it, don't forget to go and overlock all the way around. So you have to come into every shot. Alright, and then all we need to do is try and get this undone, which can be a little bit tricky. Not too bad though. Oh, oh, silk stuck. Oh. There we go. Put it inside out. Give it a good iron or a steam. And you're ready to pop it on your pillow. Be sure to poke your corners out. Poke your fingers into the corners, get them nice and pointy. And there we go. One beautiful cushion cover, pillow slip, whatever you want.